John, if there are one or two elements from your Ofsted report, William Edwards, that you could pick out and say, I'm really, really proud about that, what are they?
I think there are three main ones. The first is attainment. In other words, the standards actually achieved by the children themselves, and that was classified as outstanding. The second is progress. So the progress made from all children when they come to us, regardless of their ability or their level, was also considered to be outstanding. And the third, I think the level of care, welfare and guidance, in other words the pastoral side of the children's education, also came out as outstanding. And those three elements, I think, were absolutely key.
Anybody as an outsider who walks around the corridors of William Edwards will recognise it is a very well-oiled machine, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is, and it's well-oiled because of the team of people that are actually within the establishment itself. My job's been pretty easy, actually. It's about releasing the potential of the people working in William Edwards. And they have tremendous potential. In the same way that kids have potential, so do staff. And I think if you generate a team ethos and you give them a direction in which we're all going to follow, in other words, people do sign up to the so-called vision of the school. And that's not just us, it's not just the teaching staff, it's also the non-teaching staff, it's the parents, and probably most importantly of all, it's the kids actually sign up to it as well.
Day to day, week by week, do you have one eye on Ofsted, so to speak, during the working weeks and months?
I think when you're due an Ofsted, you can't help but have that in view and in your mind. Because although you're given just 2 days' notice, you're always constantly thinking, look, I could receive the call today, and then what's going to happen? Because the thing about Ofsted, it's a snapshot. It's largely a snapshot of what they see when they're with you. Ofsted does come with a view of what the school is doing, because that data that they're drawing upon is nationally produced data, which is open to certainly to Ofsted and certainly to the school. We supply them with that information, so we know the details that they're looking at, and so we've got a judgment. But what they will do is to come in with a host of hypotheses, questions, and they test those hypotheses when they're in the school. But all schools are given a preview of that, if you like, by a pre-inspection brief, as it's called, which is produced by the HMI the day before the inspection and is sent to the head teacher. And so the head already knows roughly what they're coming in to look at. But these days, certainly under this present Section 5 inspection, 90% of their time is spent in classrooms looking at learning and therefore looking at teaching that brings that about.
Could you be a victim of your own success? Well, not a lot of parents now will look at that outstanding and probably want to come even more parents want to come to the school.
Well, I think that's always going to be the case. I mean, William Edwards has always been an enormously popular school, hugely popular school. It's always had, well, since I've been there way before my time, it's had in excess of 800 applications for the 240 that are available, 240 places available. Is that likely to increase? Possibly. But I think in terms of the secondary sector generally in Thurrock, parents and their kids have a good deal. Increasingly, and particularly this year illustrated it beautifully, the standards across the secondary sector are improving significantly. And so I think, as opposed to, oh God, I've got to get my child into that school because the other schools are perhaps not up to scratch, it's no longer the case in Thurrock.
As a newspaper that meets 8 or 9 of the senior heads, on a regular basis, the head have their particular imprint on the school. There's now a challenge for 2 new heads. What's your advice for those 2 new heads?
That's a good question. I think my advice to them would be just remain focused. Ignore what goes on around you and the extraneous stuff that both comes from the local authority or centralised government. Just remain focused on what's important. And it seems to me that there are 4 things that people need to focus in on, 4 things that heads need to never lose sight on. The first is the actual curriculum diet that you're presenting to the kids. In other words, that must be appropriate to the needs of all of the children within the school. Not the same, so differentiated. The second thing is, if you've got your diet right, it's about the method of delivery of that diet. In other words, the quality of your teaching. So relentless focus on improving the quality of teaching, because that's what it's about. Because if the teaching is right, and the only way you can judge whether or not the teaching is right is whether the kids are learning. And so if the kids are learning brilliantly, it means that the teaching is right. The third thing is looking at a system whereby you can monitor pupils' progress regularly. It has to be rigorous, it's got to be robust, it's got to stand up to scrutiny. In other words, once you actually know that the children that you have come in with that potential, they're working at that level, but their potential is this, set targets accordingly, and then measure systematically and regularly their progress towards those targets. And don't wait until the end to intervene. If something is showing up earlier, intervene then. And the fourth thing is the climate in which they're operating. In other words, is it a school that belongs to the kids? Do the kids really want to go to that school? Is it something they feel ownership of? And is the ethos amongst the staff an ethos that's encapsulated by the idea, if you like, of servant leadership? In other words, we're there to serve the children and not the other way around. If they concentrate on those four things and exclusively those four things and ignore anything else that hits you, then you've got it right.
With the Ofsted report, what, in your mind, were the highlights of the report?
Well, I've been fortunate or unfortunate enough to have witnessed many Ofsted inspections of the school and lots of inspections by HMI over the years, and I've been absolutely delighted with the outcome on this particular occasion. We have been striving to be an outstanding school in the country for a very long time, and to reach this point now, at the end of my career, is absolutely marvellous, and the real credit must go to the children who have developed their skills and their talents over the years at William Edwards and have now finally reached that pinnacle where they are amongst the top 10% schools in the country. There were many highlights. Obviously teaching and learning is the heart of everything we do, and to do exceptionally well there was quite phenomenal. The behaviour in the school again is outstanding. Every aspect in fact achieved this highest accolade from Ofsted, and that in itself is just a wonderful thing for the school and for the area.
Do you think, you mentioned behaviour, it's something that people who come into the school, like ourselves, once every few weeks, we go through the corridors, it's quiet, it's almost taken as a given, but that has to be worked at.
It does, and I think when people enter the world of teaching, occasionally they feel it's about teaching a subject. The real issue is how well you get on with young people and the relationships you form, and that becomes the culture of the school and the ethos of the school. That's something which has developed over many generations. And it's been a real privilege to work with these children and their parents, and indeed their grandparents on occasions, to develop that culture.
And of course you are a sports college, and we published a story about the cross-country championships, and it became a bit of sort of watching William Edwards shirt after William Edwards vest coming in at the end of the cross-country champions. You excel at sports.
We do. It's a tradition built up again over many generations. In fact, since school opened in '62, we've always done very well at sport. Part of that is due to the fact a lot of the good facilities are local to us, the running track, the swimming pool, the rugby club of course, and we've always worked with the coaches in those areas with the school, and we've got some outstanding PE staff at the moment as well. The talent has always been there. We produce internationals in this school, and we aspire to the highest levels in the country, having once come third, as you know, in athletics in the country. So the talent is there, the ability is there, and we work very hard with it, and there's no secret to our success.
Mr. King is going, Mr. Henderson is going. Is there young blood coming through the school that's going to keep it at this level?
Oh yes, I mean nobody is irreplaceable, and Mr. King has done a phenomenal job for the school. He's made everybody more accountable. He's set them very high standards and expectations. Their aspirations are high, and he's done jobs second to none. We're very fortunate to have had one of the top heads in the country in this school. I've been here for a very long time. It's my 41st year, and I shall miss it because it's been a great school for me, and I've enjoyed every single moment of it, working with the youngsters in this area and this community.
And do you feel